I think one of the things that this COVID crisis has exposed is that we have used schools to paper over a lot of social problems. Schools not only teach, but they're expected to provide help with hygiene. They provide the meals for a lot of these kids. They have psychologists there now. Teachers oftentimes have to provide clothing for some of these children. All of a sudden, the school building is not open and operating. It's like, oh my God, these are real social problems these kids have. Well, you didn't see them because the schools were taking care of them. There should be other social entities doing those things. We have a poor, sick population to begin with, and then we expect the schools to be able to magically deal with all the stuff they were dealing with, and now with all the COVID stuff. I think it exposes the real underlying socioeconomic problems we have in this country that I will argue have gotten worse rather than better. Our social class system has become more entrenched, not less entrenched. And as a result, schools are bearing more and more of this burden. And when they can't provide it all, like in this crisis, we seem beside ourselves. Like, how we have this problem? Yeah, we have this problem. You just haven't seen it. Teachers saw it. You didn't see it.
I'm in complete agreement that we ask far, far, far too much of schools, and that we need far more robust social kinds of mechanisms and structures in place, because nothing goes away once you're 18 in terms of these social stigmas and oppressions that we're talking about. That said, part of what keeps me invested in education is that it's the one place that we actually try to do something that's not on the side of capitalism, right? That feels like it actually contradicts principles of capitalism. It is not cost efficient to educate absolutely every single kid, regardless of ability, regardless of language, regardless of income, regardless of immigration status, you name it. If you are school aged, there is a school for you. There's a public school, and by law, they need to do what they need to do to get you there. To me, that's something that's actually kind of hopeful about education, or sort of what keeps us invested in education. It's that it is this place where we do social interventionist kinds of work, and it's hard to find other locations, particularly within the United States, that's actually what they're up to. Maybe the other piece that I guess I want to add to what Mark was talking about here is thinking about what schools could be doing shouldn't be off the table. I think we are in a kind of pernicious pattern of school failure, school failure, school failure. I feel like right now we're living through this moment that we're going to point back to and say, look at how poorly the schools handled COVID. Schools as a scapegoat, schools as who we blame, I think is going to become even greater out of this COVID-19 pandemic, because it's already a pattern that's easy to latch onto. It is so easy to blame lower middle class, disproportionately white women teachers for the greater ills of the entrenched elite in this society.
One of the things that surprised some of the school reform people, particularly school choice people, is if you built it, they did not always come. And as a matter of fact, a lot of these parents are pretty wedded to their neighborhood school. Why? Those are the stable institutions in those neighborhoods. They're reliable, they're safe, their children can get services there. And so when it's like, well, let's just do school choice and close down those failure factories, the parents are like, well, wait a minute. We want that school functioning in our neighborhood. That's a major important social institution. Given the realities that we're dealing with in society in terms of providing public services, schools may be the best game in town. One of the terms that's become common now in this vernacular is wraparound services. You're really going to do this seriously, then you need to be going into the homes, talking to the parents, getting the parents to come in, be part of their children's education, help them learn to interact with infants, all of that wraparound stuff that will make kids more education ready, will make the homes more education friendly. Because remember, from the time you're born to the time you're 18, you're only going to spend about 10% of your life in a school building. An awful lot of your life is going to be spent outside the school building. So what goes on outside is crucial to your education. And so you need to make that outside part of these children's lives educationally friendly as well.
You know, our role as academics, as researchers, as people who write books and study these kinds of things, right? I think we have a dual responsibility. We need to understand what's at issue. We need to understand interventions. We need to be creative. We need to be thinking forwardly. At the same time, right, as somebody who I've spent most of my time with teachers, right? And in teacher education, we have that immortal question: what am I going to do on Monday? And, you know, robust, a national program that gets us out of the domestic responsibilities that so many working class youth of color have, right? Thinking about remote learning, well, I can't actually go to my high school class because I got to be on with my little siblings to make sure they're getting what they need for their 2nd and 4th grade right now, right? And now I've got all kinds of deleterious outcomes for me because I've got these domestic responsibilities. Of course, we are asking too much of schools. And so we need to think simultaneously, what can schools do with all of that investment, with all of that responsibility? And investment in a rhetorical, metaphorical sense, obviously not in terms of actual dollars, as we're advocating and as we're pushing. I actually think the 2010s, and we'll see what happens in the 2020s, are kind of a shift in terms of how teachers are mobilizing and agitating for change. We have to simultaneously be imagining what kinds of changes, what kinds of policy initiatives do we need to be advocating for, while at the same time, those kinds of, you know, classic Deweyan pragmatic sorts of questions of what am I going to do right now, right? And so as much as it feels important to imagine those possibilities, I also feel a responsibility for thinking about, given everything that you're facing, what should you do on Monday?
I've been very encouraged by the cities that are doing pods for their essential workers.
Yeah.
I mean, if we're going to do remote learning or we're going to do hybrid, we know that a lot of these people that are now working don't have anybody to supervise their children that are spending 2, 3, maybe 5 days in remote learning. So we provide pods for them. We maybe use the school building, have a teacher that, I think that's a good sign. In the more general sense, if you look at the progressive social program wish list, right? If I had to only have one, universal childcare is awfully important because, truthfully, when you look at school reform debates today, when kids arrive at school 2 years behind, are still 2 years behind at 3rd grade, you're fighting a losing battle here. It would be so important to school reform if we could get kids to arrive learning ready so that they could pick up in kindergarten and 1st grade with the other kids and not just continually fall behind and then get dissatisfied with education and feel like failures and drop out at 16. Universal childcare, if we did it right and had certified trained teachers and not just glorified babysitting for these kids, you could make a big dent in a lot of these issues. They're still going home to poor families. I get that, and that doesn't go away. But you give these kids more of a fighting chance. They're less reliant on their home environment for their educational opportunities. And then on the parent side, businesses are not providing they're not providing a child care benefit in most cases. And so you could help the workforce across the board. You might help reduce poverty if these parents don't have to not only work for low wages, but then pay people to do child care.
It'd be really interesting, Mark, to think about how much of our healthcare crisis would shift or move with universal childcare, right? So I'm sort of drawn to that mental experiment a little bit of our healthcare woes might not actually be as great if we had a robust childcare system.